I'm Liz Yorio, and this is Karen McHugh.
Hi.
And we're here for Presto Pesto. So I'm gonna just jump right in and get started. Everyone should have, hopefully, or if you didn't, you can pick up your little kits. Inside are, we provided a little jar with a little piece of fabric that you could put on the top to make it look pretty, a little gift tag. And we also put in 2 of our favorite pesto recipes. Karen's gonna actually make hers today. It's her favorite pistachio pesto. And mine is a pistachio mint pesto, but today I'm gonna actually just show you how to make the regular basic pesto. So I'm going to switch views here. And we're gonna go over to, ta-da! All right, so I don't know if any of you have been growing basil this season, but I'm gonna give a shout out to the library, Harborfields Public Library seed program, because this basil is all from the seeds I picked up through the library. The important thing when you're picking the basil is, and when you're growing the basil, is really every time you see the flowers start to get them off. Because once it starts to flower, it doesn't use its energy to the leaves. It puts all its energy into the flower, and you really want, for the most vibrant leaves, the most best tasting leaves, you really want all the energy of the plant to go into the leaves themselves. So every time you see it, a little flowering, you just try and pluck it off. I mean, basil also grows best when used. So use it as much as you can. If you just have it sitting in the backyard growing, it's not gonna do well. The more you pick, the more it'll grow. I also trimmed mine this morning because you want to keep it as fresh as you can. So what I did when I brought it into work today is I put it in a little glass jar with some fresh water, and then I kept it in the fridge for the last 2 hours. I've also seen it where you can cover it with plastic. If you're going to keep it for more than a couple of days, I would definitely do that. But for a couple of hours, if you pick it in the morning, this is still stayed great. So I started out, my recipe is a very simple, basic recipe, 2 cups of basil, which I put in to, I'm also using a blender to show you that you don't necessarily need a food processor. Karen's gonna do hers with a food processor, but I'm gonna use the blender. And I started out with 2 cups of the basil. I brought in a poultry scissor or a garden scissor. I use it as more often than not, but you really could just pinch the leaves off. And then I just pinch away the center, and then I just put the leaves in. So rather than cutting it, but you can cut them all off if you wanted to as well. And you're gonna start, this recipe calls for just starting out with the basil, 1/3 cup of pine nuts, which actually this is 1/3 of a cup of pine nuts that I just picked up at Lidl. I'm gonna give a shout out to Lidl for inexpensive nuts, very inexpensive, cheaper than Trader Joe's, I must say. You can also use walnuts, which I'm not using in this recipe. I'm gonna go as basic as possible today. But sometimes I even like to mix the 2 because it just gives it a nice flavoring. So I have here 1/3 cup of the pine nuts, the 2 cups of basil, and I'm just gonna start by pulsing my, and then you kind of just, I don't know if you can see it here. I'm just sort of chopping this down and pulsing it. For the sake of sound and time, I'm gonna actually now add, you would do that until it was completely finished. I'm now gonna add Parmesan cheese, which I should have listed the ingredients from the get-go, but it's Parmesan cheese, pine nuts, basil, garlic, olive oil. That's it. So I'm gonna put in my 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese, and I'm gonna put in my garlic, 3 cloves. And this actually, another little shout out to Lidl. This was very inexpensive garlic packed in water, which I used, which was quite nice. You can also just use fresh garlic if you wanted, 3 cloves of that. And then I'm gonna hit pulse again. And then for the sake of noise and time, I'm gonna, it actually says this recipe calls for you to pour this in slowly while the food processor is running. So you can't really do that with a blender, and it really doesn't make much of a difference. So you could pour it in half, you can pour it in full. Scrape down the sides a little bit. And here we go. We have our pesto. I also, I brought in different jars. I know I put these in, but for the sake of recycling, this is like a jelly jar. You can certainly use any sort of jars and make it as gifts. You can pour this in. This isn't really finished yet, so I'm gonna wait and do this a little bit later, but just to show you what is complete, how easy and simple with your fresh grown basil. I'm gonna try a little bit with a pita chip, but I love to put this on tortellinis and cooked chicken sausage. I also love to put it on, I buy pizza dough. I put it on pizza dough with fresh mozzarella. I'm gonna switch cameras here so you can see. Want to see me taste?
Yeah.
Would you like to share?
Sure.
It's absolutely
Smells
delicious.
great. It smells so fresh.
So fresh, so delicious, so easy. I've read you could put it on potatoes if you want to bake a potato. It just adds a nice little flavoring to anything, honestly. Some people like to add cream and make a creamy pesto. You can do that as well.
That sounds great.
This is good.
It is good.
It's good. So this is your basic, simple pesto. Again, using the basil you had grown, hopefully, in your garden this summer. And now I'm gonna pass it off to Karen.
Okay. Thank you, Liz. Hi, guys. I'm making this pistachio pesto. The ingredients are zest of a lemon, half a cup of lightly packed cilantro and parsley, some olive oil, pistachio, garlic, kosher salt, and a pinch of black pepper. All right, so I am using a food processor. And all right, so I am going to put in, let me start with the parsley. Now, I'm doubling the recipe because I want to be able to share this with some of my colleagues today. So let's start with a cup of cilantro. And then a cup of parsley, and I kind of roughly chopped it up. And some olive oil. The zest of a lemon, in this case 2 lemons. I'm just going to save a little bit for garnish. So I'm just going to save a little. Some garlic, and I put the garlic and the salt, and some kosher salt. Just 2 pinches of black pepper, and pistachios. I love pistachios. So hopefully I'm not overloading my food processor. All right, and here we go. Stay with low. And scrape down the sides. And you can process this as much as you like, if you want it really fine or if you like it a little.
And the word pesto comes from Genoa, Italy originally, and it just means pestare, which meant to ground or to use pressure to mash, basically. So they used mortars and pestles. And any herbs and any nuts is a pesto, basically. So you can use any herbs you've grown. I've used mint, I've used lemon thyme sometimes. Sometimes I mix some herbs. You can also throw spinach in if you wanted. Whatever's growing in your garden or whatever you have access to, and any nut of your choice.
Now, this recipe came from the New York Times, and it was served, they were serving it on top of fish, and I've tried it and it's fabulous. So it's room temperature. You want the pesto room temperature. You get your warm fish, and then you just put it on and the heat of the fish, oh, it's great.
It looks delicious, yeah. All right, we're gonna fry it in a few. And I also was looking up the prevention of browning, because sometimes you buy that basil and it goes brown so fast. And when you still can use it, you really want to use it as fresh as possible. Basically, when you're cutting it, you're just adding oxidation areas for it to oxidize. So the less you do and the more you keep it in water or you keep it rolled, sometimes I'll roll it in a damp paper towel and sort of keep it like almost like a cigar-like roll. And then when you cut it, you can also prevent it from browning, because the oils that you're utilizing from the knife will help to like seal off the area that would otherwise have been oxidized. Oh, that looks yummy.
Okay, so this one, I'm sure I could have processed it down a little bit more, but this is what it looks like. Oh, we're gonna taste it.
Okay.
I'm gonna feed you.
No, I was gonna hand it to you. I could have. Oh, I can't wait to try that.
Oh, it's great. Good.
Oh, and the lemon zest is a really nice touch with them. We are just going to say goodbye and thank you very much for joining us today. And
the video will be on our YouTube channel in a couple of days.
And if you haven't picked up the packet, they're here at the front desk for you guys. And again, it comes with a little jar and it instructs you recipes for 2 of our favorites. So have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
This was great.